when we talk about our search for God, we often look to the things above, but maybe we should be looking all around. Hi, I'm Father Kevin Zubel, and I'm a Redemptorist missionary serving in the Diocese of Baton Rouge. And I've been offering a series called Sacraments of Hope, where we've walked through each of the 7 sacraments and how they're signs of hope for us in the world today. And while I've already spoken about the 7 sacraments that we celebrate as a church, I wanted to continue the conversation with sort of a broader picture about the sacramental life. And I think this is one of the great treasures of our Catholic faith, and one that we often don't appreciate, and often one that we struggle to pass on to future generations. When I was in college at the University of Texas, I was a member of a Christian fraternity. Now, this is a fraternity that welcomed Christians of all different denominations. What was such a blessing about that experience is all of us understood each other as Christians first. And so we assumed all were there to pray together, to accompany one another, regardless of how they lived their Christian discipleship. But of course, there was always those late night conversations. And I remember one evening, one of the brothers came up to me and just asked me point blank. He said, "Kevin, if there's one thing you wish I would understand about the Catholic Church, what would that be?" And I remember my mind was just racing and racing and racing. It's like, well, Eucharist and this, but went on. And then after a few moments, I stopped and I said, the fact that we're a sacramental people. I think that is, for me, one of the most beautiful ways of expressing how we Catholics live the Christian faith in our world today. We celebrate the 7 sacraments. Those 7 sacraments are all encounters with the grace of God in and through the signs and forms that prepare us, that initiate us, that send us, that heal us. Those are very particular and special moments of encountering God's grace active in the world. But we as Catholics also talk about the sacramental imagination. The sacramental imagination is our whole perspective on the world around us. And we often forget or don't appreciate how special the sacramental imagination is and how it can center us to see the world in a different way, even when compared to other Christians. And so what is the sacramental imagination? Well, it all sort of centers on how do we imagine God interacting with God's creation. There are some who imagine God to be sort of distant. We imagine him on a throne, judging the world, judging actions, intervening from time to time to reveal his glory, and that we can encounter God through prayer and worship, and that through our prayer we can ask God to reveal his glory in very specific ways to meet our needs and our necessities in our daily life. That's one image of God. Another image of God is the sacramental image of God. And this is where we see God's creative love active and moving all around us. We see it in the things of creation. We see it in the little moments that we recognize to be sacred. And I think we Catholics who are formed, initiated, and inspired and moved along through the sacramental life are called to carry that sacramental imagination into the things we do. And so what is the source of our sacramental understanding of the world? Well, we see it in the example of Christ himself and in the scriptures. We see our ancestors in the faith, even in the times before Christ, how they would touch the holy bones, how they would have holy water, how they would use oil to anoint. We saw how the simple things of creation that were formed from God's love are used to communicate God's grace in the world. And so Probably the most classic example we have comes from the Gospel of John and the story of the man born blind in chapter 9, where it says, as Jesus walked along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Jesus answered, neither this man nor his parents sinned. He was born blind so that God's works might be revealed in him. We must work the works of him who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made mud with the saliva and spread the mud on the man's eyes, saying to him, go, wash in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. Then he went and washed and came back able to see. This is such a powerful story because we know Jesus was able to heal people in any number of ways. There's even occasions where Jesus heals people from a distance after someone they love intercedes on their behalf. But what we see in this sign from the Gospel of John, Jesus making mud, mixing the earth with his own spit, is that he heals this man in a way that the man can come in physical contact, that there is this intimate connection, that he can literally feel his eyes being opened through the means of the mud made with the soil and the saliva. And then he washes in the healing waters, something that opens our imaginations to understand the waters of baptism. And so what we see in the example of Jesus Christ is that the simplest things of creation can help us connect to one another in a physical way, in time, to communicate the power of God's grace and its ability to heal. And so we talk also of sacramentals. Sacramentals are the universe of things that we use to express our faith, to pass along the faith. These are rosaries, scapulars, holy water. It's also the blessings that we do, the consecrations that we do, those who enthrone the Sacred Hearts of Jesus and Mary in their home. Those are sacramentals with a lowercase s. They're not the same as sacraments, but they're also ways in which the church intercedes and to help communicate God's grace actively in the world. And so I think it opens for us new ways of passing along the faith and seeing the signs of God's love, to continue to give rosaries as gifts, especially in significant moments in people's lives, to receive the protection of the scapulars, and to also to respond to the commitment that the scapulars call us to ask for blessings, to pass along blessings, to invite God, to reveal God's grace in the simplest moments in our lives, so that his presence is known to us in a deep and meaningful way every moment of our lives. I remember my father loved coffee. He drank coffee at all hours of the day, from when he woke up to when he went to bed. And in his final years, he always had with him a little travel mug, and it was always filled with coffee. And I remember he was so connected to this travel mug that one of my nephews, when he was very little and learning how to talk, thought that the word grandpa meant both the man, my dad, and the travel mug. So if he saw the travel mug by itself on the table, he'd point at it and say, Grandpa. So connected was my dad to this little travel mug. Well, when my dad passed away, we took that travel mug and we cleaned it out, and still it sits on the kitchen counter in my mother's home. The travel mug is not my dad. It's not Grandpa to my nieces and nephews. But there's something about that travel mug and the way it was so connected to who my dad was. It reminds us that he is still a part of our lives. He's still deeply connected to us, that we can still share the joys and struggles of our life as a family with him. Even as we pray for him, even as we continue to remember him year after year, the anniversary of his passing. But I think that is the sacramental imagination alive and at work. When we see in those simple things that bring us real comfort, that bring us in touch with the power of the resurrection, Christ's triumph over death, that we can see the sacred amidst the simple. That's one of the greatest gifts of being Catholic. So let's not be afraid to share it with those whom we love.